Impact segment tonight, a massive federal operation against sex offenders has resulted in the arrests of more than 1,600 people, many of whom are considered dangerous to children. Operation Falcon 3 was launched this week. It has been helped by a new federal law that requires law enforcement to work together on a state, local, and federal level to arrest sex offenders. Joining us now from Cleveland, Friedman, a criminal defense attorney who does not like the new law. Why not, Counselor?
Good evening, Bill, and good evening to your viewers. The new law, I think, which about the Operation Falcon, going out and getting and rounding up all these sex offenders, it's fine. However, what happens after that? And I think that right off from the start, the first thing that I have to question is we had 11,000 people rounded up. So we're really only talking about 15% of those being sex offenders. Why then the focus on that? We had murders, we had kids in gangs, we had all sorts of violent offenders. And so I think the focus here is inappropriate, frankly.
Well, look, I mean, fine, that's your opinion, but the fact of the matter is that 1,600 sex offenders were arrested, people who either didn't do what they should have done, register, or who had outstanding warrants for brutal offenses, many of them against children. And it doesn't really matter whether other people were arrested or they weren't arrested or this, that, and the other thing. Everybody, including you, should want to protect people from predators who would harm them in a sexual way, particularly children. And I understand you don't support Jessica's law either.
Well, let me be very clear. You and I both share the interest in protecting our children. And I think first and foremost, that is our biggest concern. So we definitely share that. But the problem is we have a balancing test, okay? Because in our country we have the greatest legal system in the world. And we have to balance the rights of protecting our children, granted that first right, with also affording those who are accused of these heinous crimes the protections, you know, as we know. One is
but I mean, they got lawyers like you. If they're arrested for any crime, they hire Counselor Friedman. You mount a vigorous defense. But these laws basically say if you fail in that defense, and the guy is found guilty by a jury of his peers, he goes away for 25 years for harming a child under the age of 13 or 12. That's a fair sentence. The punishment fits the crime. Yet you oppose Jessica's law, and I want to know why.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I do oppose any type of sentence in any offense that imposes a mandatory minimum sentence, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that it takes away the discretion of the courts.
Well, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there.
Please,
in your state, you had a judge, Connor, who sentenced a guy who molested 2 little boys to probation. You know the case. I made it national. That's the discretion of the judge. You're okay with that?
But I think, Bill, we have to be very clear here. We're taking 1 or 2 examples. You also spoke recently, and I did hear you on a case out of Vermont. We're taking 1 or 2 cases out of 100,000 cases. I'll tell you, in my experience, and I do this every day across the country, I'm not seeing those courtrooms getting the lenient sentences. You know, we hear of these sentences in Vermont of the 60 days. I'm not seeing that, and so I don't think that's the norm.
Just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It happens all the time. Look at Jessica Lunsford. She's dead because the alleged killer, John Cooey, was out and running around, and the state of Florida didn't know where he was. So,
no question.
Look, you have to balance, as you said, rightly said, the protection of children against these terrible people. And if they're convicted of raping a child or brutalizing a child, felony sexual battery, they've got to go away for 25 years. And some idiot judge like Connor in your state can't be allowed to pervert the whole system that you say is the best system in the world. I'll give you the last word on it.
Thank you. You know, again, you're talking about extreme instances. I also see other extremes, the opposite end of the spectrum being other offenses where people are getting disproportionate sentences, a lot longer, and eliminating any effort at rehabilitation at all.
Yeah.
So I think here, again, the balancing test is there. As long as, I'll tell you though, in the last word, as long as we are following this system and making sure that those people get a fair trial along the way, the discretion is to the judge.
Not for me. You rape a child, you brutalize a child in a sexual manner, ruining that child work, you go for 25. Counselor, we appreciate you coming in for the debate. Thank you.